Hello and welcome once again to the Allon Exchange with Jay and Brittany Hagy. They are founders and financial advisors of Allon Planning Partners. I am your host, Spike Spangle, and every single week we try to help you with retirement planning solutions. Jay and Brittany, great to see you as always.
Great to be here.
Me too.
Jay, I'm going to go to you. What's on your mind when it comes to retirement this week?
Well, this week I thought we would tackle a big one. Big one is the number one fear of everybody that I've met with in the last 6 years. How do I know I have enough money? Am I going to run out of money in retirement? So we thought we would take it from a little bit of a different angle and say, here are some ways you actually will run out of money in retirement.
Wait a second.
So,
We don't want to run out of money, but
absolutely.
you're going to talk about some of the ways that people actually do.
Yeah, it's kind of a list of don'ts. Like, if you don't want to run out of money, don't do these things.
Well, we spend a lot of our time coaching and training people. Here's how you do not run out of money. So let's just go from this angle. Here's some ways that you absolutely can run out of money that you want to avoid.
All right,
okay?
Wonderful program. Folks, stick around throughout this entire 30-minute segment here. We're going to talk about ways that unfortunately we see people actually run out of money in retirement, and through Jay and Brittany's advice, we're going to hopefully help you avoid that. But one of the things that you can always know is you'll be able to reach out to the program here and schedule your own appointment to come in for your own written financial plan. Let's start with this. How do we know if we've got enough savings?
Yeah.
That's hard because I'm having to do some of my continuing education on these exams that we've all had to go through. And it's kind of figuring out future value of money,
Yes.
my present value of money. I'm not enjoying going through those. How do you help
I'd say
people
not.
figure that stuff out?
Well, I mean, the number one way you're going to run out of money is if you have insufficient savings. You do not save enough. You have not saved up enough. So we run a lot of analysis when we're meeting with folks to know how much money do you need when you retire? That's the question you have to answer. It is very individualistic as well. You know, everybody's lifestyle is different. Everyone has different amount of assets and desires and how they want to live throughout retirement. But what I will tell you is if you have not sufficiently saved enough in the working years, you will absolutely run out of money and we have to figure out that number for you. So how do we do that? The basic formula we start with when it comes to that is, how many years do you want to be retired? Most folks have to plan for more years than they've thought because people are living longer than ever before, which is a great thing, but we have to think about 25, 30 years in retirement. So what is your current present value of money? How much are you spending today on the needs and the basic needs of life? How is that going to last you over a 25 to 30 year period, including 4 to 5% inflation? I mean, the last couple of years have taught us anything. It's brought up the signal of inflation needs to be considered when it comes to retirement planning. So we take that number and we say, okay, 4 to 5% on average inflation over a 25-year period. Is that going to cover all of your life expenses? That's going to let you know how much do I need to save and have I significantly saved enough for retirement?
Yeah, so it's pretty basic, right? If you're not saving for retirement, you're going to be in trouble when you enter that phase. But you also want to make sure you're saving enough. So not just am I saving? Yes, check, got that done. Well, hold on, let's back up just a little bit. Are you saving enough for where you want to be? And again, this circles back to our purpose-based planning and goal-based planning. You have a goal you're working towards, and you have to have a path and a way to get to that goal. So, and you kind of begin with the end in mind, right? And then work backwards to where you are. So here's where I want to be. So now here's where I am. So how do I get there?
Yeah.
And that's how you can really know if you're saving enough, is if you really have a clearly defined goal or purpose that you're working
So we're
towards.
backing into that number. So I guess kind of the savings leads to the spending. Should we be backing into the number of what we spend per month right now?
That's a big one because you don't know how many times I sat with folks and asked them, what are you spending right now? And what's the most common answer that I get?
Don't know.
I have no idea.
Sure.
I just know we have enough to, we save a little bit. We have enough to make the ends meet every month, and we're making our utility bills and we're feeding our kids. We know we're doing good.
Let's be honest here. Is the bigger problem that most people overestimate or underestimate what they're actually spending?
Yeah, they absolutely underestimate that because most times if you sit down and look, the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is take 6 to 12 months of your bank statements or your credit card bills or whatever those are, and let's average those together to see a baseline of how much we're spending. Because people will say, well, there's miscellaneous bills every month that I don't know, how do I know to save for this or save for that? Well, let's look at the last year. It's going to give us a good estimate of how much you're actually spending and what your lifestyle is costing you. And are you overspending in any areas? I met with a lady last week that did not realize how much she was spending just on Amazon. And I'm not being on that, but like QVCs of the world, the online shopping. She would see something she would like and she would just go and do it because there's not really a budget. We just do it. Yeah. Hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month. To
that point, though, not only did she not really realize the amount she was spending, but her husband had no idea. So, couples, this is where
that was a good conversation.
Be on the that was a hard conversation, right? But you got to be on the same page because if you're working toward a common goal or a shared goal, but you're working against each other, man, that's hard to actually achieve what you want to achieve with that way of working. So you've got to be on the same page when it comes to that.
This is an honesty and communication between couples. Obviously, you're a couple as financial advisors who work together. You guys got to be open and honest about what the expenses of the business are, what we're going to spend on what tools. Whether it's things like a television program, your live events, or your brand new book that you've got out.
You have to plan.
You got to be open and honest about what each of you are spending. So does this come down to having a budget, or do you call it a spending plan where we're both on the same page?
It's having a spending plan where everyone's on the same page. And we use those words because a budget seems stiff and, oh my goodness, it's put me in handcuffs. But no, that's not what we're looking for at all. We want you on a spending plan because overspending leads to insufficient savings. And insufficient savings leads to you running out of money in retirement. So it is a chicken and an egg kind of situation again. It's like one absolutely affects the other. We have to have a spending plan that we all agree to, that we're all on board with, and that can get us to saving the amount that we need to save to get us to a retirement dream that we have.
We're going to go out to a very quick message, though, but we've got the brand new book, The Allon Approach. Brittany or Jay, I'm going to ask you which one of you wrote more of it.
That was very collaborative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
50.
It wasn't 50-50, but it was collaborative. We spent a lot of time and energy and effort producing this resource, and that's what it is. It's a resource that we want to get into individuals' hands when they come in for that complimentary consultation. We want you to leave with a written financial plan, but we want you to leave with a guidebook that says, how should I be doing this going forward? And that's what we've created.
And there's a section in this book I want to highlight. At the end of every chapter, we've broken it down to where you have a review, reflect, respond. So let's review what we've talked about. We're going to reflect over what we've discussed and ask you some questions to help you really implement these concepts, and then respond. What's the action step, right? Because it's one thing to have the knowledge, but you have to implement it to actually produce the result you want. That's when you experience power. The knowledge plus actual action and implementing that gets you the result you want.
I have to implement a very short message right now. We'll be right back after this. Folks, call the phone number you see down here so you can get started on your own complimentary review. We'll get you a written financial plan. When you come in, you'll also get a complimentary copy of the book, The Allon Approach. And I love that you have the reviews at the end of every chapter.
Reflect
you can
and
discuss it. This isn't just a sitting on your own with a book. You can do this with your partner. You can discuss it together and make sure that you're being open and honest about your finances together to make sure that your retirement strategy works. Call the phone number you see right down there on the bottom of the screen. We'll be back with more of the Allon Exchange with Jay and Brittany Hagy right after this.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to the Allon Exchange with Jay and Brittany Hagy. I am your host, Spike Spangle, and every single week we talk about retirement planning solutions. This week's program is, well, how you run out of money in retirement, but we're trying to help you avoid that. And so we were talking about the spending. I like having a spending plan instead of necessarily a budget. A budget sounds like a diet, right? It's restrictive. Spending plan means what we can spend. But here's the thing. You brushed on something, Jay. You said inflation.
Yeah.
And the world has gotten very expensive on people right now. So how do we prioritize current spending with maximizing our savings, as you said, Brittany? It's tough right now.
Listen,
people are having to choose.
I go to the grocery store too. You know, we have an 11 and a 13-year-old.
Right.
Our world is way more expensive this year than it was last year than it was the past. We're all feeling inflation. We're all feeling the realness of it. We've seen 8-9% inflation rates over the last couple of years. I think the days of 1% and 2% inflation are kind of done for a while. You know, we will not see that again for a while. So you really do not only have to save for the future, you have to understand that the money's going to not be worth as much in the future as well. That's what it means. So we have to plan appropriately. That's why we use a number anywhere between 4 and 5% for our inflation, just as a baseline, just to say, okay, if we have higher inflation for longer, how is your money going to react and respond? And is it going to last the way you need it to last? And so because we feel the pain of that today, we know it's harder for folks to save today than it was this time last year. But we still encourage you, and that's why it's even more important you get a spending plan so that you know where your money's going, not to be handcuffed by it, but to have freedom and to experience, here's how much money I absolutely can afford to save, not a guess. Right.
Brittany, I think it's a good thing, or it's at least an important thing that we're now talking about inflation. I think a couple of years ago, a lot of people weren't factoring in inflation into this spending plan. What, if we go to some basics on inflation, what does that do to your spending power 10 years, 15, 20 years down the road?
Yeah, we call inflation the hidden tax because it's something that you have to account for, or if you don't, it will be evaporated money.
You will pay.
You'll realize really quickly, ooh, I don't have as much as I thought I did. I mean, think about even Social Security. I don't know if you know this listening today, but Social Security even is adjusted annually for inflation. That percentage looks different every year based on inflation rates, but even the Social Security benefits are adjusted for inflation. How much more important is it for you to consider that when looking at your individual financial plan and withdrawal strategy and saving strategy, all of those things considered, ensuring that you're actually thinking about, oh yeah, things get more and more expensive as time goes by. So let's account for that when planning for retirement.
Yes.
Yeah, and what other ways, though, that we can run out of money in retirement? So the Social Security, there's cost of living adjustments. The savings is on us.
That's right.
But where it goes,
that's important.
That's incredibly important. You say poor investment choices can ruin our spending.
Yeah, one of the ways that we want to highlight is poor investment choices. That means either way, you can be too conservative, actually, or you can be too aggressive in your investment approach. And so if you're too aggressive and you're feeling a lot of volatility and you're in that retirement red zone and you're 5 to 10 years out from retirement, it's going to cost you dearly. If you're inversely too conservative and you say, I'm just going to put everything under a mattress and I know at least it's there, that's where inflation eats it away like crazy. So you're not going to be able to keep the same buying power and spending power that you have with that money. So having poor investment choices will absolutely deteriorate your finances when it comes to retirement.
Well, and I also want to hit on the fact that it's not just how your funds are invested, but also the type of account they're invested in. And when I say that, I'm talking about the tax status, because what you want to do is create multiple buckets with different tax statuses. So your IRAs, your 401ks, those are tax deferred. What that means is that when you go to take the funds out, you're going to have to pay taxes on those distributions. But if you also create buckets like Roth accounts, Roth IRAs, those types of accounts, when you withdraw from them, they are tax-free. So you pay your tax up front before you put the money into the account, and then it grows tax-free. And when you take those distributions, there's no additional tax there. So those things account as well, not just how you're invested, but the type of account you're investing in.
I do want to say those two areas is where we specifically help you shine. We want to help you shine to make sure you have proper asset allocation, meaning, am I being too conservative? Am I being too risky? Am I taking the proper amounts of risk? Am I correlated too heavy with all my investments working in the same way? That's another way of diversification. Do I have the proper tax buckets set up to where I know this amount of tax deferred money, I'm going to have to pay Uncle Sam a portion of that before I get to keep it? Do I have tax-free accounts in a Roth? We want to help make sure that you place your investments when you do save in accounts that get you to where you want to be. And this is where we really help a lot of folks day in and day out.
So the poor investment choices isn't necessarily saying that this index fund is better or worse than this one. It's really knowing all of the different asset classes you're in, because I wanted to ask, things are sometimes pitched to folks near retirement, such as life insurance and annuities, but you're not saying necessarily any one of those is the right or wrong tool.
That's correct.
We need to find out for each individual family what you're trying to do with
That's absolutely correct. I would say that a vehicle, which you just mentioned, whether it's a CD or an annuity or a life insurance product or a stock or a real estate property or a REIT, whatever it may be, vehicles aren't inherently good or bad. Right? It's which is going to get me most efficiently and effectively to the goal that I have. And so we may utilize a broad spectrum of vehicles to get you there, but the asset classes which make up those vehicles absolutely matter. You have cash, you have real estate, you have stocks, bonds, and I'm missing one, and commodities. Yeah, there's oil and gold and things like this such. So how those are positioned or to absolutely get you most efficiently to your goal is what we're going to help with. We may utilize a variety of vehicles to get you there, but not one is inherently good or bad. When they become good or bad is if you've been sold something that is not good for your situation, just because the advisor or whoever you're working with can only produce that product. Working with an independent fiduciary advisory firm such as ourselves, we have a broad base that we can really reach out and grab any vehicle that we need to get you to your goals. And that's why you want to make sure that you're working with a fiduciary.
I'm going to very subtly lead this over to Brittany with, is that what you would call the Allon approach? The comprehensive?
Yes, that is at the core of it. That is at the core of it. Using the right advisor to help you navigate not just to retirement, but through it. All of that season, right? What's encompassed there. And that's what we offer, is this complimentary consultation. You can call 866-691-7317. You can schedule your complimentary consultation through that phone number or directly on our website through the QR code you see on your screen. When you call and set up your appointment, you will also receive a complimentary copy of the Allon Approach. This is a resource that Jay and I have created for you to help you know how to get to where you want to be. It talks about purpose-based planning. It talks about what a comprehensive financial plan really is and why it's important to have one.
Get your complimentary copy of the Allon Approach. Call the phone number you see down here. You'll schedule an appointment. We'll give you a copy of the book. Jay and Brittany will probably sign it for you as well. And then we will do a comprehensive written financial plan with you. This will probably take a meeting or two. And there is no cost to this. We just want to see, are you positioned correctly? Are you taking the proper amount of risk? Are you using funds and tools that are going to help you be and stay retired? It's complete and it's comprehensive. We'll tell you more about it when you come into the office. But call the phone number you see here. Ways to run out of money in retirement. We're going to talk about health care costs when we get back, right after this.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter, the one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back to the Allon Exchange with Jay and Brittany Hagy. I'm your host, Spike Spangle. Today we're talking about ways that unfortunately Jay and Brittany, as financial advisors, see people sometimes run out of money in retirement. Their goal, their job is to help you not do that in retirement. So let's talk about healthcare costs. Obviously, none of us are getting healthier as we get older. We can try. But we get smarter, we get a little bit wiser, but the body not coming along with us all the time. So how can we plan for some of these so they're not unexpected healthcare costs?
Yeah, you've got to consider healthcare because healthcare expenses, we all have experienced it. They are increasing. Every year, your insurance premiums go up, or a regular doctor visit cost increases. It's continually going up. And if we do not plan for them, this is one that will completely erode your retirement savings. All it takes is one unexpected event that could just like that occur. And it's so unfortunate. But the reason we're talking about it is that's not, we don't want to settle fear into you. We want to talk about how to prevent that from occurring, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to be afraid of that, but we do need to plan for it.
But that's why healthcare and long-term care planning and things like this are a major pillar in comprehensive financial planning that we do. It's one of the 5. And so a lot of people just think about investment management or, obviously income planning. How am I getting to this? But if you have a healthcare emergency, the best income plan that we put together, if we do not compensate for a major healthcare issue, it goes out the window. Because at that moment, emergency strikes, and we have to care for ourselves or our loved one who is in an emergency care need and a long-term care need, and our income plan is gone. You have to focus on healthcare because it's something we're all going to need as we get older, and everyone has to have a plan.
But our viewers out there might be thinking to themselves, well, when I retire, I sign up for Medicare, and doesn't Medicare take care of most things?
That's a fallacy. Right? Medicare is not going to cover most of those needs. It's going to only cover a portion, and there's a time limit on each of those things, right? And so you have to have a plan to where Medicare may assist you in those needs, but it's not going to cover the long-term care. It's not going to cover some massive debts that you can accumulate from healthcare planning.
And some of the numbers, we've discussed this before, and I know you've probably talked about it on your weekly radio show that you do here in Tennessee as well, is that if a couple reaches the age of 65 together, there's a 75% chance that one of you will go into long-term care.
That's right.
What are some of the average costs we see for long-term care around the area?
They're
astronomical.
Out the roof. You're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars depleted through long-term care situations or in-home health care. Any type of medical care like that is extremely expensive, and again, can just eat away at your retirement savings that way. So
it's a way to run out of money. In retirement.
No matter
That's what we want to avoid.
No matter how you're invested, the investment strategy matters. But if you don't have a healthcare plan, your healthcare plan can eat away at any gain or any profit that you have made on the investment side, right? So again, this is where it's so important that all of these components are working together. Strategy. It matters. Working in tandem. All of these different components that you're considering the whole, and not just a piece of the puzzle, but the whole as well.
For many of our viewers out there, you might be familiar with the phrase the sandwich generation right now. So it's not only you having enough savings for yourself and your partner, maybe if one of you needs to go into long-term care, but there's a lot of working adults, late 50s, early 60s, who are taking care of their elder parents. So now sometimes money and time coming out of their pocket. But there's also another part where those 50 and 60-year-olds are taking care of their adult children. There's a lot of folks struggling right now.
We see so much of this, and this is a way that you really can experience inefficient funds in retirement. If you are overgiving or overspending on your adult children.
There's a healthy limit
yeah,
here.
and that's what we want to talk about.
Have you seen this in the office? Anybody coming in recently?
We have had a number of folks coming in over the last, specifically like the last month
Well,
or two.
specifically last week, I met with someone who had just entered into retirement. So they are now on fixed income. We have an income plan set up for them. They have Social Security maximization in place, and it covers their expenses. The problem is, she said, Jay, I'm still paying for my 40-something-year-old's daughter's electric bills and other bills that they had. And my question was, why, right? Are they in a bad spot right now? Or is this something that you're enabling that is probably not a healthy situation? And so we have to, listen, there's a lot of people struggling, a lot of people hurting right now. I get it. And so people get into spaces to where they need a hand up in those situations, but it can't become an enabling situation to where now you're at detriment with your income plan because your family is living at your expense. And so we have to make sure that there's a healthy boundary set in place for adult children, that they do not take advantage of mom and dad.
Yeah, there's a
any
difference,
longer than they
hand
should.
up, hand out, right?
That's right.
It's one thing to help a family member if they're really in need of that. It's another to create this unhealthy expectation to where it's expected, right? And that's just how it's done, where they can kind of evade any responsibility because mom and dad will take care of me. Right? That can obviously get really unhealthy.
And
really
even
quickly.
the advice that I gave is make me the bad guy. I'm putting your income plan together for you. Make me the bad guy. You can no longer afford to pay these bills and live out your retirement. I'm telling you, this is not a healthy situation. And so some folks need that help and that out. I'm fine with that, because we want to put a plan together that works for you to get you through retirement.
We've talked about this many times before of the program that you've had on for over a couple of years now, and I'm so glad to be a part of it. But the behavioral finance, that a lot of people make decisions based on emotions. Now, normally we're talking about the markets, either fear or greed or chasing, but this is a different kind of emotion, our family emotion.
Yeah.
So two ways that I'm hearing you say we're running possibly out of money in retirement, either giving too much to our families or hoping or assuming that our family's going to take care of us when we get older.
Yeah.
Isn't that what we say? We don't want to be a burden on
That's
anyone
right.
else, and not to be a burden, that
right.
we need a plan for ourselves.
Yeah, and that is where we come in and help you put together that plan so that you don't have to be a burden. Nobody wants to feel that way, and that you're not overgiving and overspending on your adult children. So there's got to be a healthy dynamic in both of those
And part of
areas.
this planning is generosity is a core component of how we choose to live
That's
our
right.
lives and how we encourage others to live. So that's going to be built into a comprehensive plan. We're not saying don't give to your kids. Don't
That's right.
please don't hear that, right? It's oftentimes
to your
it can be
detriment.
unhealthy.
Yes.
Yeah, it can get to unhealthy extremes. That's what we want to help folks avoid.
Well, thank you both so much for talking about, I guess, ways that you've seen people
Yeah.
almost
Right.
running out of money in retirement.
Sure.
And you're
And
trying
how
to
we
help
help
them
avoid
that.
that.
Exactly. So, folks, if you would like to try to avoid running out of money in retirement, get a complimentary copy of the Allon Approach. It's what Jay and Brittany apply every single day in their offices. And the way that you can do that is call the phone number you see right down there on the bottom of the screen. When you come in, you'll get a complimentary copy of the book, and we'll start you on your own written financial plan. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next week.